Alrighty. Hello, this is Scotty McCoy. I am the author of the Ultimate Friday the 13th trivia book, and I'm doing another book titled The Ultimate Slasher Movie Encyclopedia. And I am interviewing the cast and crew of the Friday the 13th franchise, and I currently have on the phone with me Adam Cranner, and he played Ward in Jason Goes to Hell the Final Friday. Hi, Adam. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just had a little debacle here, but we're doing pretty good now. So the first question I have isn't really in regards to Friday the 13th, but it's how did you get your start into acting?
Oh, wow. Well, that started back in elementary school. I remember that the call went out for auditions for the school play of Tom Sawyer, and I, like every kid in the class, went out for the interviews or the auditions, and sure enough, I got the part of Tom Sawyer, and from there on out, I was hooked.
That is awesome. And I love that book, by the way. It's a classic by Mark Twain. I love that book. So how was your death scene filmed for the movie?
Well, I actually don't have a death scene. I have a preamble to a death scene.
Right.
Right, where you see my arm broken.
Yep.
And that was actually, we shot that scene first.
Okay.
Of me coming out of the diner and doing that whole bit. So it was kind of intimidating. It was the middle of the night. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're way out in Agora Hills. And, most of these people didn't know me from Adam, as it were. So they set up my arm gag. I remember doing that. That was the first thing we did, was that bit. It was great. It was hysterical because we were actually shooting that second unit, and Sean Cunningham was directing that particular piece, which was hysterical. So we did the bit where the bone comes squishing out of the skin. Right. Where he snapped it out, and a big chunk of blood went squick right in the middle of the camera. And I just remember Sean saying "cut" and laughing and saying, "They are never going to let us keep that."
Wow, and they did. They did.
They did. That was the first thing we did. And then, the only other thing we did was a bit where I got thrown into the glass door. Right. Which we shot that night. And I think it was the next day we did the scene where they shot all of the dead bodies on the floor in the diner.
Oh, okay. So what was your audition like for Jason Goes to Hell the Final Friday?
I didn't actually audition. Awesome. I was, having been old friends with Adam Marcus, we went to high school together and had done a whole bunch of theater together. Adam called me up and said he wanted me in this. So it was his first directing gig, and I think he wanted to make sure he got some people in there who he knew he wouldn't have to argue with. Right. And not argue with, but like who he didn't have to work real hard to work with.
Yes.
Adam could tell me he needs blue, and I'd give him blue, because he directed me in 1,000 plays, and we'd worked together for a long time. So that was how I got the gig.
Awesome. So speaking of Adam Marcus, how was he as a director?
He was good. He knew what he wanted. And he was real good at communicating to me exactly what he wanted. I don't know much about the technical aspects and stuff, but certainly as an actor's director, he was terrific.
Awesome.
Really terrific to work with.
Awesome. So what was your most memorable moment when filming Jason Goes to Hell the Final Friday?
Wow, that's a tough one. Because there's, from an acting perspective, there was the scene that we shot with Stephen and I in the back room of the diner.
Right.
Where I give him my keys to the car. Mm-hmm. And that was a really exciting scene because as from an actor's perspective, it really gave me a lot to work with. Mm-hmm. And from another perspective, it was, in a lot of ways, nobody knew me, and I was Adam's friend. I wasn't an actor. I didn't have a huge resume. Right. I have a BFA in acting, of course, but to most of these people, I was Adam's friend. To Sean, I was Adam's friend. But that scene we really got to do some acting. And I remember Bill Dill, who was the cinematographer, Adam says cut, and Bill Dill goes, wow, acting in a Friday the 13th movie. and I remember watching Steven again. We were doing the scene, and Steven really, he starts seeing me he's off camera. He's just off camera, and I'm doing my scene with him. And he was wonderful to even do the scene with me. Right. A lot of times you don't have to have the other person off camera working with you. And we really started working, and he saw me really reacting to what he was doing, and we really started getting into a groove working together. So from an acting perspective, that was probably my best memory.
Awesome.
From a personal perspective, it was that first night sitting in Agora Hills. I just finished doing the scene with my hand, and I sit down in the director's chair, and Aaron Gray sits next to me. Now, I am of the age that Aaron Gray, to me, was Colonel Deering from Buck Rogers.
Right.
And, of course, she was the woman that helped put us all through puberty at that age. So it was a very surreal experience. It's like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning at Agora Hills, and I'm sitting next to this incredibly beautiful and wonderful, nice woman with blood coming out of one arm, and it was just like such a weird business.
That is true, though. So I interviewed both Adam and I also interviewed Rusty Schwimmer, and they both were amazing during the interview. But what was it like working with Rusty Schwimmer?
Rusty is a riot. Rusty is so funny and so quick, and we had a really good time on set hanging out together. She's really funny. Leslie Jordan is hysterical. Mm-hmm. So we got to spend a lot of time just cracking jokes and being funny and doing little comedy bits with each other while we were waiting for setups and stuff. She was an absolute dream and so much fun to work with.
Awesome. It's like you're acting and you're getting paid to make a movie, yet it wasn't really a job because you're having so much fun doing it.
Absolutely. It was a great time.
Awesome. So what was the best part about filming Jason Goes to Hell the Final Friday, and what was the worst?
Wow, the best part. That's really hard to say because it was all, on the whole, it was a great experience. It was so much fun. And it was great because I was, working with a friend, working with a buddy who I'd known for a long time, and it was great to see him having success.
Right.
And his brother, I'd known Kip forever as well. Mm-hmm. And I got to have a lot of fun on the set. Right. From a perspective of what was the worst part, the scene where we were all dead on the diner floor. I had long hair at the time. Well, I still have long hair, but I had long hair at the time, and it was covered in blood.
Ooh.
And, I was down on that ground for like at least an hour or so.
Right.
And we cut, wrap, and I couldn't get off the floor. My head literally stuck to the floor.
Wow. And just to clean it out must have been a bitch.
Yeah, and I was like, can I get some help, please? And it took like 15 minutes of people pouring hot water on my head to dissolve enough of the blood that I could get off the dining room or the diner floor.
Right.
And then they had to hose me off because I was literally covered in blood.
Right.
They had to hose me off before I could even change out of my wardrobe. Mm-hmm. So it was my head stuck to the diner floor. It was probably the worst part.
Right.
All in all, not that terrible.
Awesome. So what was the environment like on set?
It was great. It was really terrific.
Awesome.
It was really terrific. Everyone was really nice. And like I said, it was a lot of fun to work with Rusty and Leslie. And, I knew Kip forever, too, so we got to hang out with Kip. And everyone was really nice.
That's great.
We had a good time, but we didn't waste time, which was nice, too. There's nothing more miserable than sitting around waiting.
Exactly.
On whatever. And we moved pretty quickly from scene to scene.
Right.
There was not a lot of wasted time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm gonna throw an impromptu question out there that I don't have on my list actually, and it's a lot of people. I I mean, recently, Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday is starting to get a bigger fan base, but a lot of people criticize it because Jason isn't in the entire film. So what would you say to fans on why this is one of the better Friday the 13th films?
Good question. I think I really like Jason Goes to Hell because it really tried to push the envelope of what you could do in a slasher movie. Mm-hmm. Did we fully succeed? That's not for me to say. Maybe not. But I think we got enough Jason in there and enough splatter and gore to keep the movie moving along. And I was really proud of the fact that we tried to break away from some of the cliches.
Exactly.
Do something different.
Exactly. Like I'm like when I was younger, I didn't really care for the movie because Jason wasn't in it, and I remember most of the films except for the first one, Jason was always the killer. But then as I grew up and I started getting into like literature and then getting into the acting industry, starting up Gravestone Films myself and starting to do screenwriting and all that, I appreciated how the film was different from the others. It wasn't the same old teenagers having premarital sex and doing drugs and then being killed one by one. It was completely different, and it took the series and franchise to a whole new different level, and I absolutely love that about it.
We were trying to evolve the series beyond what it was.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And I think in that respect, we're an important kind of stepping stone.
Yep.
In the series. Exactly.
So as we know, Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday was all, of course, a body-shifting movie, and Jason wasn't technically the killer throughout the entire series. We do know Kane Hodder played Jason when he did appear, but you didn't really have any scenes with Kane Hodder, but did you get to hang out with him behind the scenes? And if so, how was it like getting to hang out and know such a legendary and iconic stuntman?
Kane was awesome. Kane was the nicest guy, and it's disconcerting to go on set, because I hung around set too after we finished shooting, a little before.
Right.
I came on set, and there's Kane in his Jason outfit without his mask on, but he's sitting in the director's chair with reading glasses on doing a crossword puzzle. You got to take a step back there for a second, but he could not have been nicer. Awesome. He was also the stunt coordinator on it, so I did get to work with him some.
Okay.
In working in, how we were going to do the slam to the door, and at one point they talked about doing a gag where I was going to go through a window. Right. So I did get to work with him in that capacity, and he could not have been nicer and more professional. And I remember after the show had wrapped and I was about to go back east to Connecticut,
right.
He took my number and said he was going to be in Massachusetts for the Halloween time, because he's always in one of these haunted events around Halloween time, and he gave me a call when he was back east. He remembered and gave me a call and asked me if I wanted to come up and hang out. I was unable to. I was working on our show at the time, but that was a wonderful thing for him to remember. He didn't have to remember that and do that and reach out. So he could not have been nicer and more professional.
Right, and I mean, I even reached out to him and his agent and whatnot, and his agent said they'll get back to me if Kane Hodder is able to do an interview, and Kane actually emailed me himself and said to me that he's unable to because he's extremely busy. But if I keep emailing him, he one of these times I'm down to get him for an interview, and I'm keep reaching out to him, and I haven't heard back since. But I know how busy how much fan mail he probably gets. I have his personal email now, so he gave me it. So when he messaged me, so I have the connections to email him. And one of these days I'm bound to get him, and I really would love to interview him. That would be amazing.
I'm sure he'll be a fascinating interview.
Yep.
This is the busy time of year for him as far as appearances go. So I'm sure he's super busy. But
yes. And the last question I got is: do you have any future projects in the works, or anything that you would like to promote that you would want to tell the readers about?
I have retired from acting and show business. That's another long story in and of itself, but so I have nothing to promote. I'm just working a workaday life now.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time. I'm sorry for the delay, but that phone call I had to make and everything that happened there was kind of out of the blue. I didn't expect that. It was literally like 5 minutes before I had to call you. It was like 25 after 7, and I'm like, I smell smoke. And I called up to my mom and dad, and I told them what's going on, and my aunt's up there and everything. I called them, and next thing you know, we go down there, we have a big water leak, and we smell it, and we had to call 911 just to be safe, you know. But I'm glad that we still were able to get this interview in.
My pleasure. My
Awesome.
pleasure.
Thank you very much for your time, and you have a wonderful night, or in your time, I should say, have a wonderful day.
It's coming into evening for me. So.
Thank you very much. You have a nice night.
And thank you, you too.
Yep, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.